Look at it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison. Sorry, it's a Sunday, and this is maintaining frame number 101. It's also kind of a. Do we have like a certain name for videos that people submit? Or
I guess we can call it a sponsored show. So today's show is sponsored by Richard Pierre.
Yeah.
Who sent in this request a couple days, or actually I think it was yesterday. And I'm like, is this a request? And I didn't receive a reply till this morning. So yes, Richard Pierre really wants us to.
He has a
Hannah Cox.
borderline sick fascination with us responding to Hannah Cox videos. And I blame myself because I was the one who started it. I said, hey, look at this. I do. I said, look, this woman thinks she's a feminist and a libertarian. Isn't that funny? And now here we are. And now 5 videos in, still refuting the same old crap.
But to be fair, Hannah Cox is not as bad as Manifestel.
Yeah, well, Manifestel is like, let me see, how do I compare these things? Hannah Cox is like Skeletor. Manifestel is Hordak. That's what I think the main difference is. And that's the super Gen X like child reference. If you get it, you get it.
Hordak.
Yeah, you don't get, well, you're kind of a more closer to the millennial side, but you do not know who Hordak it was? So
no.
Okay, I will explain really briefly.
All right.
In the He-Man universe, on Eternia, of course, He-Man's nemesis is Skeletor. But when I think it was Mattel that made those dolls, I can't remember for sure. They wanted to make one for the girls, so they came up with She-Ra. And She-Ra's nemesis is Hordak. Now,
Hordak.
In the lore of the show, Hordak is actually Skeletor's boss. So he's like more evil than Skeletor is. So there you go. Yeah, so cartoonishly more evil because Skeletor's already super evil. I remember there was even like there was an episode, if I forget this, but like Hordak was going on a vacation and he wanted Skeletor to take over the Horde while he was gone.
Oh, okay.
and Skeletor like messes everything up and Hordak comes back and he's like, oh, I'm so refreshed. You know, and this is so silly because these are like monstrous.
But
like,
Skeletor got some good lines, you know.
Skeletor's got the best lines, but
he's got some insights.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going into
good with the management, you know.
We're going into deep Masters of the Universe lore, and I don't want to do that because it's silly. But all I'm saying is that yes, Manifestel is definitely worse, but Hannah Cox isn't good by contrast.
I'm not saying she's good. But
okay,
I don't. When I look at Hannah Cox, I don't get the feeling like there's actually a reptile inside her. You know what I mean? I think she's human, not necessarily the sharpest pencil in the case, but you know, I think there's a case to be made that she's still a mammal.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder with the other one.
I don't know.
Whoa, is there a lot of shade?
There's a part of me that thinks that Manifestel is not even real. Like she's like
generation. Like, well, all of the hatred of the female subconscious manifested her in some kind of like demonic warping of the timelines.
Yeah, if I don't think of it that way, I'll cry.
Okay, all right. So let's so to begin, we are doing our monthly fundraiser. This show was sponsored by Richard Pierre, who basically pledged to our fundraiser. And when that gets through, I'll give him a thank you, do a shout out. So we do take requests from people who pledge, and depending on if you want to sponsor an entire show or whatever. But if you're interested, you can send me a message at feedthebadger.com. Sorry. So badger@feedthebadger.com if you're interested in sponsoring a show topic. Now, we are doing our monthly fundraiser at feedthebadger.com/support. If you would like to help out, it's always appreciated. Every bit helps. So $5, $10, it's all great. It all shows that you're interested in making sure this content continues, which is, I suppose, one of the most consistent voices against this. And, I just wanted to say that we did a show. I think we did 2 shows that was almost wall to wall statistics on sexual violence against men by women. And we managed to get a significant viewership for both shows, which is actually pretty astounding, because that is the topic. I don't think there's any topic for that. There's any audience for that.
Yeah.
So I think that what we're doing is really critical, because we're bringing attention to things that not many people are interested in, because they're not fun topics, but they still need to be talked about. Because I think that the issue of recognizing men's right to consent is essential to everything when it comes to men's issues and men's rights topics. So, I think our content's really good. If you want to support it, please go to feedthebadger.com/support and help us out. And if you want to send us a message at any point throughout the show, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. It is the very best way to send us a tip, and for you to have your comments, circumvent the YouTube comment appraisal system, shall we say. So once again, feedthebadger.com/support to support the show, feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a tip and a comment. All right, shall we begin? Right. I think we did get a Super Chow in between.
Yeah, we should probably read the Super Chow that we got. It was
this person.
This is
a Nostradamus.
Yeah. So
the content of the show.
Well, this is a response to probably the last time we responded to a Hannah Cox video. So I can't display it on the screen. I'm just gonna have to read it, and you're just gonna have to listen. So this is from 4 Rant Circa 215. Hannah Cox's perception of value gives us $5 and says Hannah Cox claims that men are not hustling as much as women, and then she asks why men are not hustling. I think she is too materialistic, and she glorifies the hustle. Work is actually not that valuable because the individual trades their most valuable resource, time and energy, for money. While money is necessary, if not for women, most men would prefer to earn only enough money to comfortably survive while funding an affordable interest or hobby. This lifestyle was achievable through a single part-time job, but government interference prevents this possibility. My conclusion is the same as yours. Cox wants to trade men's most valuable resource, their time and energy, for money so that she can spend it on herself for material goods and services. What a crappy trade deal. Yeah, and I think that what Hannah Cox gets wrong, and I don't want to say this is what libertarians get wrong, because I believe that a libertarian that is principled and understands that morality and the understanding of human nature is necessary to make it work would agree with me when I would say that it seems to me that Hannah Cox is using libertarian principles as a kind of sheep's costume so that she can creep in her materialist feminist ideology. So she'll say, well, I believe in the free market, so why aren't men stepping up and earning more money? Why should women need to be with them? So she's using libertarian in a kind of the framework is closer to something like what a Herbert Marcuse might have claimed, which is about liberation, which is in Hannah Cox's view more of a freedom from than or a freedom to than a freedom from. So as like negative rights versus positive rights.
Okay.
And she's using libertarianism to make this claim, which is why she feels like she can just, rag on men, because men who generally don't need material and they understand that your time on this earth, you don't get back no matter what. Right. So if I spend a bunch of time like investing in a relationship or a job or a marriage, and it's all, I lose it for whatever reason. Like the job just, the company closes down, I lose my job or whatever. The girl dumps me out of nowhere, cheats on me with somebody else. I, as a man at least, and I'm not saying that women don't do this, but I can only speak for myself, would see it as an investment of my time that I will never get back. So like time, you don't get back. Money, you can earn it again. Even energy, you could replenish. But yeah, I mean, I'm basically saying I agree with this post. So,
okay, well, let's begin.
All right, let's get into the article. The video. I'm sorry. Okay, so this is Hannah Cox, and it's called one thing red pill men and modern feminists have in common. I can already know what it's going to be, but I'm just going to play it anyway. I haven't seen this video, but I already know.
Hey guys, I'm Hannah Cox with Base Politics, and you're watching my show Histrionics, where every week I talk about women's issues from a sane, centrist point of view. If you like this episode, don't forget to like.
Floating above everybody, I'm sane, guys. Hear me out.
Comment and subscribe.
This is how I know. Like, this is why. See, like, I will say this. At least Manifestel, she just tells you what she's about. Hannah Cox pretends to be centrist. She's like, oh no, I'm totally not like those. I'm floating above everybody else. I have a 9 billion IQ. Hear me out, guys. MRAs and feminists are basically the same thing. Have you heard this one yet? Stop me if you heard this before, guys. They're the same. I can't wait. Okay.
A 9,000 IQ, except that she can't seem to stop herself from contradicting herself when she talks. Because this is one of the things I find most infuriating about her, Hannah Cox, is she cannot go a video without evincing, stating, creating a contradiction, a paradox.
Yeah.
You know, that just frustrates me. Okay.
All right.
Let's keep going.
Subscribe or check out others in the series. Sir Isaac Newton said, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. That became one of the primary laws of physics. In politics, we have a similar law, and it goes, for every action on one side of the political aisle, there will be an overcorrection and overreaction on the other side of the political aisle.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Like, let's see what her analysis, her 1,000 IQ analysis.
Not 1,000. I wrote it in the chat. It's like, I think it's like 9 quadrillion, like something like that. So yeah, that's it. She's so intelligent that she says something super dumb, and we just don't get it because we're not smart enough to see how smart it is, even though it sounds really dumb and obvious.
Okay.
So, all right.
Whatever her IQ seems to be subject to incredible levels of inflation, but whatever her IQ is, let's discover what her analysis is of the proximal causes for the red pill, I'm assuming.
Yeah, right.
Just making a guess.
I think this can be observed on a number of fronts, and oftentimes we talk about this phenomenon with the term the horseshoe theory. Horseshoe theory asserts that advocates of the far left and the far right, rather than being opposite and opposing ends of a linear continuum of the political spectrum, closely resemble each other, analogous to the way that the opposite ends of a horseshoe are close together. Put more simply,
horseshoe theory is bullshit. I'm just saying horseshoe theory is bullshit. I used to believe it, but it's bullshit. No, this is.
Well, you just have to take things as an analysis. Like everything has to be subject to analysis, and the argument has to be there. So you have to be able to prove it, right?
If the state is arresting people and throwing them in jail, like without trial, because they were standing near public property and they didn't like that, or they weren't wearing a mask, or maybe they tore down like a flag that they didn't like because it didn't represent their country, or they were just like on the train publicly stating, like, I am English and England belongs to the English. And then that person gets arrested. And then in response to that, there is like a grassroots political movement of people that are like, oh, we want to change this. We don't like the way these laws are coming out. She's like, oh, that's horseshoe theory, bros. Like, I'm sorry, but where is the center? This is what I mean. Centrist people, show me the center between the thing you're about to talk about. What's the center of feminism and the red pill? That's what this is.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. What is her analysis? Yeah. I mean, we can continue to like front load this, but I'm actually really curious. So what is it?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, just for the record though, horseshoe theory is bullshit. Okay.
Simply, if you go far enough left or far enough right, you eventually meet back right over here and you are one and the same.
Now, I'll put my analysis here.
All
right.
Okay. I think that principles or beliefs can be adhered to in such a way that they cease to be principles or even any kind of a pretense at virtue and start to become basically gang colors and tribalism. So, and I think that can happen on both the left and the right. However, I don't know if that's what she's talking about. I mean, I'm really curious if that is. So let's keep going.
Many fronts today, since we're on histrionics, as you might have guessed, we're going to talk about it as it relates to women's issues. And I would say that this is currently happening with whatever wave of feminism we're currently on over here on the left, and then the red pill manosphere on the right. Now, as you know, if you've been following the show or politics at all, women are increasingly moving further left, men are increasingly moving further right, and it is...
No, they're not. They're not.
No, they're not.
Maybe in South Korea, but unless you are
even then,
Korean,
it's not that much.
Yeah, it's not that much.
Yeah.
Even if you are, you're not Korean, Hannah Cox. What's happening in, I believe, the UK is that men aren't moving left as fast as women. And in the US, they are moving slightly to the right. That's it. Women are diving upwards off a cliff to the left. Okay, that's what's happening. So don't distort this. All right? Okay,
Yeah,
the other thing is that I know she's going to talk about the manosphere, and I know that we're going to be lumped in with the manosphere, but it occurred to me just right now what might actually mark the difference. A lot of the men on the manosphere want to change what's going on, but without changing the identity of men as being the prime movers. And this identity is new. It's actually feminist in a lot of ways, because prior to 1940 is when this started. Actually, 1940 is when they started to keep track of this. But prior to the 1980s, women were perceived to have more social power and influence than they're perceived to have now. So they were perceived to have more agency. In some cases, they were perceived to have more agency as men. We can't imagine that today because we are all in a post-feminist society. But there was a time at which people wouldn't have agreed with, oh, we live in a patriarchy. They wouldn't have agreed with this idea that men have more power over the social sphere than women do. They wouldn't have agreed with any of that. They would have said, no, women have agency in these areas of life, and they often have more agency and more freedom in these areas of life than men do. So in creating this dichotomy or this sort of feminist narrative about society, we got rid of that idea. And we exchanged it for this idea that men have absolute control over basically everything. So ultimately, everything is a result of men's choices and actions. And I think that in many cases, the manosphere, or many elements of the manosphere, want to keep that identity that men are the primary movers in society, while attempting to change it towards a society that recognizes the needs of men, which is actually sort of irrational and self-contradictory. Whereas I think the people who are men's issues advocates want to say, actually, men do have these issues. They have these areas where they do not have power, and we need to recognize the needs and vulnerabilities of men as a call to take action to protect them from it. But that requires recognizing that there's a place where men's power ends. So you see, I think that's sort of the difference. Do you get what I'm getting at there, Brian?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I don't know what the other parts of the manosphere are after, but in my opinion, we're trying to correct the injustices, but we're not trying to reprogram the essence of what men and women are, because that's never going to happen. So we have to do it with the understanding that men and women have a nature, and there is room for some flexibility and outliers, but we can't pretend like we're just blank slates the way the feminists do. So we just know that doesn't work. This is why I reject the attacks on masculinity, because I think that we need to, we can adjust. I don't think we can reinvent our hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary psychology or biology to make everything equal. I don't know that the other parts of manosphere want to do that, but I don't, and feminists do. They
explain it in a different way. So feminists have constructed this idea that women are essentially, the most salient characteristic of women is that they are victims of men. Period.
Yeah.
So men take action, women receive action and are a thing as a result of men's actions. I think a lot of the manosphere wants to keep that identity of men as being the only ones in the equation that really do anything, at the same time as recognizing what this situation is doing to men. So it's like you want hot ice, basically. You want to say, well, men are the only ones who are doing anything. Women can't help themselves or whatever. But we also want to recognize how women have an effect on men. So you see, it's like a contradiction. And I'm just saying that as my analysis of the situation. And where at least I differentiate is that men are people. There are going to be situations where they don't have power. And from what I've seen of history, women almost always become the center of men's identities. So men want to protect and provide for them. And usually it's women who define how they're protected and provided for, which constructs a culture. So there's that vulnerability that men have to women. And I think that there's maybe the line between the two is whether or not you're willing to recognize that. And I think part of the problem with it is, and I've heard this said, it's frightening for men to be vulnerable, to recognize their vulnerabilities. It is, and I know that sounds feminist, but the thing is that they say that, but they say it in order to dismiss any concern for men's issues. So they say, well, men haven't expressed enough vulnerability, but there are no services for when they do, right? There's nobody who's going to support them when they do. I mean, even if it isn't services, we don't have a culture that supports men when they have problems. But feminists will say that, but they say it not because they want to see it. They're not because they want to recognize or acknowledge or respect men's vulnerabilities, but because they want to use that framework to dismiss why they have to do anything. Like they just want to just be like, yeah, well, men don't express themselves, so that's their fault.
So we're not going to do anything.
We're not going to do anything. We're not going to change anything. So that's their framework. But the idea is that, I think I'm getting a little bit in the weeds here. So maybe we should go back.
Well, let's listen to more of her video.
It's causing all kinds of problems in our society, and the implications for what that means for us politically, I think, are concerning. But while these two groups are often presented as a contrast to one another, my hypothesis for you today is that they're actually one and the same, and I am going to seek to prove that. Now,
I've never heard this before.
Oh, what it was that it's hard.
Thank you, Hannah Cox. Please enlighten us on this totally radical new idea.
Yeah, well, she might be right. It's just I'm curious about what her evidence is going to be, because I mean, I would make the argument. I would make it. And maybe you wouldn't agree with me if I made that argument, but I think I could make a good argument that we are post-feminist, and even the manosphere exists within how the feminists define men, or define men for generations, and which is women are victims of men are the prime movers, and I mean that's the bait of this whole thing, is this idea that the only actions that matter are men's actions. So I mean, there's an argument, but the thing is that I think that her analysis is, I suspect it's going to be so coarse, so.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to have the level of nuance that you just gave it. I think that you're being extremely charitable to her. And I'm going to request that she have both sides chiseled into her gravestone when she passes on into the next life, because this is good. This is going to be the I've been saying it for a very long time. Both sides isn't going to get us all killed. So anyway.
Now, before we dig into it, I want to be very careful with my language here, because I cannot stand how feminism has become an insult on the right. How it's,
I like it. She puts feminism in quotes like it's not real. See, this is what I mean. This is the both sides thing. Okay. First of all, men's rights activists and feminists are the same, or red pill people, or the manosphere, whatever. It doesn't matter. She thinks all that's the same anyways. But also, the feminism that we're talking about isn't real. So like it.
Okay, I got something for this. Okay, so she does not want to recognize that feminism has a problem. and is a problem, and that it does a particular framework. And the framework is that women are victims. Now, the feminist interpretation of women are victims of men is that women are victims of men. Whereas the manosphere interpretation of women are victims of men are women can be, if anything good comes from women, it actually comes from men. Because if you think about it, if everything falls on patriarchy, if a woman does something bad, it's because a man either failed to make her do it or made her do it. So everything ultimately lands on men and men's actions. So, and she wants to maintain that. She wants to maintain the ability to constantly deflect the actions of women, the choices of women, to blame men. But I'm guessing she does not want to accept the fact, the manosphere interpretation of that, which is all female virtues are a result of men.
Yeah.
If you think about it. All right.
Well, everyone is operating, most people, Hannah Cox included, are operating within a historical and a cultural framework created by feminism. Made up for the most part. It doesn't reflect reality. It doesn't reflect history. It doesn't reflect human nature. It doesn't reflect men. And I think that because not just them, but the manosphere, a lot of those guys are also operating within the same framework.
Yes.
Because they haven't rejected the central principles, right? They have not rejected those. And so, like, no matter what it is, whether you're talking about, you know, the guys in the red pill, the MGTOW guys, the conservative Inc. guys, it doesn't matter. They're all operating within the framework. And Hannah Cox is refuting people operating within the framework that she is also operating within, and pretending like she's like in the 9th dimension, you know, and during the age of Aquarius, like where she, no, you're just saying,
me and you, the ones hovering above everyone
I hate it here. I hate this place, but yes, that's it. Like you're not doing anything new.
Matrix,
and that's probably why you're making the big bucks on YouTube, because everyone else is in the framework and they're all like, I like the way this sounds, horseshoe theory, herp-a-derp, both sides, here's $100, you know, and we're not going to get anywhere because I don't want to reject anything that I'm seeing on the TV or on the internet or from my professor or whatever, because that would shatter my brain wide open. So,
well, but it takes a lot to actually get out of the matrix and to question the identities that we've received and grown up with. Okay, so yeah, she's operating within this construct, and the construct is that women are basically expressions of men. That's it.
Yeah.
Like men make the choices, women are affected by them. Any virtues that women have are a result of men's choices. That's what the manosphere essentially says, and it's a direct reflection of feminism. But she does not want. She wants to maintain some level of feminism. Why?
The only means by which she's floating above everyone is that she's in the middle of the bell curve, which makes her peak midwit, and that's it.
Oh, okay.
And no, I'm sorry, but this is midwit shit right here. Like it's not challenging anything. It's just like what's like the thing that I can say that's gonna make me appear to be the smartest person? Oh, I'll just say some midwit shit.
Okay.
So, and if you look at the bell curve, at the top is the middle, and she's at the top, floating over everybody else.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
midwit stuff people understand. Like it
makes you feel smart. It makes you feel smart.
Thought terminating cliches. They make you feel like you won the argument. Okay. Okay. We should.
All right. Back to this. Let's play some more. Yeah.
Often used to like lump a whole bunch of people together who actually don't hold similar views. I am a feminist.
You all hold
feminists are people who merely believe in the equality of the sexes.
No, that
I would say that the current.
Oh my God, this is so enlightening. Did you know, guys? Did you know that feminism is just about equality? I did not know that. I've been doing this for 10 years and I had no idea that they claim this is just equality.
Who's the victim of inequality? It's always women. So you're basically saying I believe about equality, but there's a caveat. Women are always victims of inequality. Any inequality you can identify. Any situation where women are not apparently getting what you think men are getting. And you even invent things. Like, this is the problem with the whole equality narrative. It's like, well, men, they ride on golden unicorns that fart confetti and those cupcake sparkles, you know, and God just blesses them with perfect lives. And they get to see dinosaurs every night when they travel back in time. I can't believe what men are given. And you've invented the whole thing. And you're like, but I'm just about equality. That's all I want. I just want equality. And I also want the ability to invent what equality means. And also invent things that men don't get, like reproductive rights. Like, that's the big thing.
I mean, you have to invent what equality means. There's no point at which the so-called equality for women advocates actually have to take their visions of what men get and make them conform to reality, right? There's no point. They get to define they get to seek equality and define what it is. That's great, isn't it? Like, wouldn't you like that if you had a job? Like, if you were road repair, you're like, I not only do road repair, I define what it means. So today I'm defining road repair being the state paying for me to go to Disneyland. Like, that's ridiculous. It's not, feminists don't just want equality. They want to define what equality is. They want to define what the situation is for men in the process of defining equality. So, I mean, you can ride a truck in that loophole. You can ride, you could probably send an entire planet through that loophole, Hannah Cox. And no, it's not reasonable at all. It would only be reasonable if there was some kind of consensus behind defining equality in the first place. And if equality was strictly defined with a considerable analysis of the situation for men, but it's not. You bring things up for men. Like, the instant we say, hey, feminists, you're saying that it's unequal, but you haven't looked at the situation for men. Look at this stuff. Feminists are like, you're a misogynist. They shout down any attempt to have any kind of influence over how equality is defined. They shout it down, and they ostracize the people who engage in it. Like, so this is like I said, this has got a gigantic loophole built right in. Yep. And but okay, fine. All right, let's hear more of this absolutely stunning and also brave commentary that I have never before heard.
Current wave of feminism is not that, right? They don't really believe in the equality of the sexes. They actually tend to kind of hate men. I have as little in common with those women as I do most of the men in the red pill community, who I think, for the most part, hate women too. So I have a problem calling.
No, they don't. I don't even really think that most feminists hate men. I think that in both cases, if you can even point to the extremes, they have had a very traumatic experience and they blame the opposite sex. I mean, even Naomi Wolf, who was like one of the most hardcore diehard feminists of the time that got into it with Karen. She did an interview with Jordan Peterson, and she talked about how she became a feminist after she had a really bad experience with a man. So, and again, the problem is not, so we all have trauma. We all have trauma in our history, but it's about how we deal with it. Yeah. So I don't think the manosphere guys, like, honestly, like, do you think MGTOW hate men? And what's the most evil thing they're going to do is avoid them? Yeah, they'll avoid women. Like, that sounds terrible, guys.
Yeah, I would give a caveat that I think for at least men's rights activists, for most men's rights activists, they don't just have a horrible experience with women, they have a horrible experience with the state.
Yeah.
As a result of a horrible experience with women. All right, let's maybe we could just go until she says something interesting.
All right.
Might be a while. Women feminist, I think.
Yeah, this might be the whole video.
There needs to be another term, because first and second wave feminism were absolutely essential and important and necessary in this country, and they're still very important and necessary in other places to this day.
Okay, stop.
Okay. Maybe we should just like put links to like videos we've done in the past whenever these arguments come back up, just so that we don't have to repeat ourselves.
I can summarize this. All right.
Yeah, please.
This wasn't about equality, Hannah. If it had been, the men in charge would have said, just like every other group of disenfranchised men throughout history, you have to go fight for the state first, and then we'll consider you. That would have been equality. So this was not women asking for equality. It was women asking for a special situation just for them. And the instant it was granted, it created two classes of citizen. One class that was subject to the protection of the state and the maintenance of the state, up to and including their sacrificing every aspect of their lives, and women. Okay? So if you're going to call this equality, right off the bat, again, it's the problem of feminists say they're about equality, but then they get to define what equality is. Because this ain't it, sister. This ain't it. All right, let's keep going.
First wave feminism was, of course, the fight to get the right to vote, just to be represented in society.
Just want to point out, the libertarian assumes that the vote is a right. Libertarianism.
Then you had second wave feminism that came about in the 60s and 70s, and it had a lot more to do with women getting the right to work, to be in the workplace, to open businesses, to be able to open credit cards under their own names.
Credit cards.
Woman owned a bank.
Credit cards.
A woman owned a bank in 1903. She owned an entire bank. Okay, my credit cards. There weren't even credit cards until like the middle of the last century. And the other thing is that when men were responsible for women's debts. That's why women couldn't open credit cards, because if she was unmarried, whoever she'd marry would end up being responsible for her debts. And if she was married, her husband would be. Okay, so there was
also most men couldn't vote.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, this is not about vote. This is about credit.
You're talking about the second wave.
Yeah, and the other thing is that the whole credit system came about through the effort of men. Like this is the other thing that's astounding to me. All of these institutions that women demand access to were constructed through the cooperative effort of men. Why do we believe that women are automatically entitled to these things?
How'd that work out for us, by the way? How is credit card debt going, ladies? How's that going? What's going on with that?
Yeah, but
we don't have to answer the question. I'm just going to put it out there and see if maybe somebody in the chat can answer the question. How has it been since women have been able to access not just their own credit cards, but men's credit cards?
Yeah, the outcome has been not very great. But here's the thing. Again, we're talking about a context in which men were responsible for women's debt, which has been the case for many centuries. And that context, you completely define equality. You see what I'm saying? Feminists define equality, and nobody can actually point out, well, hey, that isn't actually equality, because when did men were they no longer responsible for women's debts? Well, it was well after women got the right to open up debts basically in their name. Right? Okay.
Yep.
So this is not, it's not what you think it. And if you get to define equality, then it's really not about fairness anymore. Because you say you advocate for equality and you define equality.
Equality should be anathema to libertarianism.
Okay.
Anathema. It should.
But this is you see how this is an example of that. They didn't actually look at the situation for men. They never talk about the situation for men, the obligations and responsibilities that men have. They just say, hey, this doesn't look like it's equal on the surface, therefore we're going to advocate for women. And you can never bring this stuff up. They shout you down as a misogynist. So not only do they want to advocate for equality, they want to define it, which anybody should refuse, like on its face. Okay.
All right.
And then you had third wave feminism that came about in the 1990s. I would say third wave feminism was still important. It still mattered, but it dealt a lot more with social issues versus political ones, because at that point, women were equal under the law in this country. So third wave feminists started.
But they weren't before.
Focusing on things like sexual harassment in the workplace. They started focusing a lot more on intersectional issues, so paying attention to women of color.
Defining it as female only. So essentially what they do every point is they define what equality is without looking at the situation for men or actively distorting the situation for men, because this is about when Mary Koss was deciding that if a man is forced to have sex by a woman, he can't be considered raped, right? They actively define the situation in such a way that they hide the problems that men face. They declare the problems that women face as a result of inequality, and then again, they're the ones that say, well, we're just advocates for equality. Every single step of the way. You see this?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why if they want to be advocates for equality, they should never, ever be allowed to define it. But they are.
Their struggles, which had often kind of been excluded in the conversations around first and second wave feminism. But by the turn of the century,
I'll say about this idea, the radical parts of every wave of feminism became the mainstream parts of the following wave. So during the suffrage movement, all of these elements were always there. There are writings about things from second wave and third that became known as second and third wave mainstream talking points that were around during the time of Mary Wollstonecraft. So these are it's just a matter of like, here's what we want to get. We're just going to move really slow. Yeah, it's constantly moving slow. So when she says, oh, well, people weren't really into this back then. No. The thought leaders were, but they knew that they wouldn't be able to put it on us like all at once. So they just did it really slow. So it wasn't excluded. And that makes you wonder. You have to look at what is currently in the fringes now, because that's the next thing.
That's the next thing.
Yeah.
Whatever's currently in the fringes now, because and the thing that's pushing this forward is, again.
Oh, wait, there was an article about castrating men and how it might extend their life.
The way that they define equality, that they get to define equality. So they always are defining the target, and they're always looking for a new target, and they're always defining that target in complete exclusion of the situation for men. Because this is about privileging women, period. And until feminists give up their right, or their apparent, give up the center of the chessboard, which is defining equality, until they give it up and say, no, actually this is unfair. We shouldn't be the ones defining equality solely. We should be investigating situations very carefully before we say they're unequal. Until they do that, then they're a movement for female privilege, period, by definition, because they never look at the situation for men. They only ever look at the situation for women. And of course they marginalize people like us, because we're like, hey, wait, whoa. And the other thing is that this actually really buys into the identities, because I think men do define themselves by wanting to protect and provide for women. So they're constantly finding new things for men to protect and provide for women from, and they label this equality, but they are exploiting that dynamic. And while calling it equality. Okay, feminists, you abdicate your absolute control over defining equality, and then you can call yourself advocates for equality. Okay? That's when you can call yourself advocates for equality. Okay, let's keep going.
Most of these movements had accomplished their goal. And honestly, I kind of think that's where the need for like overt feminism, or at least organizing around it in this country, sort of dipped off. But the problem that you see in politics,
what was that?
When movements arise, you often have organizations that start forming, they start bringing in a lot of money. And when they accomplish their goals, they don't want to just shut down. They want to keep bringing in money. They want to keep being in the spotlight. And so they'll often pick up other issues to work on. They'll turn their attention elsewhere. We've seen that same thing.
You don't agree with.
Well, wait a minute, though, Hannah Cox. I thought you were a libertarian. I thought that made you a capitalist. What's wrong with making money, even if it means, well, I don't know, lying about history and reality to get it? Oh, but I mean, she might point out that it is mostly coming from the government, which is a problem, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll keep going.
Happen in the LGBTQ community. Once these organizations accomplished gay marriage, they didn't just pack up and go home. They've now turned their attention to trans issues, which is why we all have to talk about it ad nauseum.
Our awareness is at an all-time high.
That's great. I guess now we can put our efforts into helping people on the streets.
As the wife of a surgeon, I'm all about helping people. But we're a mega successful nonprofit, not some charity.
And so now...
Okay, I'm browsing for the banana, so I'll keep going.
Yeah, but so Hannah, you're recognizing that it's a never-ending moving target. maybe it was before too, and there's a huge part of history that you are completely ignorant of.
Maybe, or you're complicit because you know that you actually rely on this inequality and this oppression narrative to exist in order for you to keep making money.
Mm.
Because then what are you going to talk about if there's no women's victimhood?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Oh,
Well,
what we have
libertarianism.
is, I guess, fourth wave feminism, and it's
Yeah, but not real
so
libertarianism.
if people
Come on.
critique feminism and they are merely discussing this current wave, I'm mostly with them. My problem is because we haven't defined our terms very well, oftentimes people are using it to try to smear all of feminism and its history, and that I have an issue with.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Okay, let me
So
ask you
it's-
something as a centrist, as an enlightened centrist. Now that you've defined what feminism is good, what men's advocacy is good? I'm curious if she can actually define that, because I'm guessing that that's not going to come up. But let's continue.
Well, let's find out. Okay, so
But the current wave of feminism is focused on things that I think are not only unnecessary, but often counterintuitive to the principles I think are best for all people, especially women. Today's feminism movement is, I would say, permeated by a victimhood mentality. There's often a real sense of entitlement, and many of these women do just hate men.
You know what really annoys me?
all right. Well, I mean, okay. I don't think this is new, but I again. All right. Well, you want to listen to this
Yeah.
TikTok video? Okay, let's play it.
Like, what really just like, oh, I just find it so frustrating. I'm not gonna pussyfoot. I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna tell it like it is. It's when men.
Currently, they're very focused on things like abortion. They started the Me Too movement, which I have critiqued on this channel multiple times.
I love that.
As they-
Just stop for a second. I love that. It's when men.
It's when men. Yeah, but
Like just, oh God, that just.
this it is true, but it is just women. Like they're just like
Yeah,
they're not
that's
even. They're doing this
extreme.
for other women. They're doing this for other
If we
women. And
don't
go,
stop that,
oh, I know, right? No,
if we
it's
don't stop
normalized.
that's going to be the next version. It's the inequality when men exist.
Yeah.
Inequality.
Yeah.
Women most affected. That's what's coming down the pike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's keep.
All right, let's keep going. More of this.
A former criminal justice reform warrior, I can't stand the Me Too movement. It went in the total opposite direction of what we needed to do, which is actually reduce government involvement, reduce the number of crimes that they're incarcerating people for, and have a higher barrier.
Is that wait? You think the Me Too movement was originally to reduce?
No. She's saying that this is a problem because this particular thing that she is for, which is a reduction of government oversight when it comes to criminal prosecution, the Me Too movement made worse. So she's saying, well, that's bad. Yeah, it is bad, but the Me Too movement wasn't the beginning of this. All of the rape shield laws, all of the laws that make sexual assault, harassment, and sexual violence some kind of special category of violence, and domestic violence, a special category of violence. All of that's when it started. Like, if you really want to go after overreach and prosecution, then go after overreach and prosecution, because the Me Too movement wasn't the beginning. Good God. I remember when Title IX came in with college campuses, before Title IX came in with college campuses, because I'm an old timer now. Before Title IX with college campuses, we were concerned about false rape accusations and how the police dealt with evidence of rape, and the rape shield laws, and how there's pressure to get rid of exculpatory evidence when it comes to sexual violence and domestic violence when a man is accused. And well, then the Title IX came in, and it's like they were such incredible kangaroo courts that we were like, oh God, actually reporting this stuff to the police is better. Right?
Yeah.
Just having the police deal with it, regardless of the biases that we were calling out before Title IX, having the police deal with it was less horrible than having a kangaroo court on a campus deal with it. And now that's gotten worse too. But then the Me Too stuff came out and it became lynching by public opinion. You know, and these extrajudicial punishments like the complete destruction of careers. Like this is a long, and again, it's just that whole attitude of we're advocating for equality, but we define equality to the complete exclusion of the situation for men. Now she seems to recognize it in this instance, but there's a long history of this happening well before Me Too. I mean, it's even lynching, if you go that far back, is an extrajudicial punishment applied by the populace against men accused of sexual abuse, not just black men, but also men of other poor men of other like ethnicities. You know,
Yeah.
and so all of this is like there's a whole history of this that she's ignorant of because she applies the feminist lens to history. And she's never going to escape that. All right.
Yep.
Okay. I'm done.
For proving that people are actually guilty of real crimes when they do exist. The Me Too movement oftentimes fought to get rid of due process. They said, just believe all women. You don't have to prove your case. This is unjust. You should just take their word for it. They often tried to lump sexual harassment in with actual criminal activity like sexual assault. You can refer back to other videos on my channel for more of my thoughts on that, but that is a very, very bad approach to an issue that I think is already one of the worst in our entire political system. The criminal justice system is a total mess. It needs to be absolutely restructured, and we need to do a much better job of protecting individual rights within it. I've also
Okay.
That's fine, but again, there's a longer history of that, and it starts with rape shield laws.
Yeah, this didn't start with like third wave or fourth wave feminism.
Me Too.
So yeah.
Okay.
notice that the current wave of feminism is often very wrong about the things it's trying to accomplish. So one of the things that they talk about ad nauseum is the alleged gender pay gap, which does not exist. Read my lips. It doesn't exist. It's been debunked over and over and over. Women are not paid less for the.
All right. So this is like 50 minutes long. And Hannah Cox is refuting the most basic bitch feminist talking points or the most ridiculous ones. She's not going to actually confront the premise. So maybe we can jump ahead a little bit. I can look at the thumbnail here. So we can look at some of the screenshots of things that she's responding to. The pursuit of happiness.
Go a little bit. Let's just go a little bit before that screenshot and see what she's saying there.
That I think is really important for humans to flourish is for people to understand that they can always have agency. You cannot control your circumstances, but you can improve them. You can decide your mentality around them, especially in this country where we have so many freedoms. We have so many economic opportunities. We have so many things we've been given that people throughout history would literally die.
I think that we need to go through the rest of it. I'm sorry. There's just too much of a gap in the logic here. So we were at like 6 minutes, I believe. But let's just, I think that we can just let her talk.
All right.
And maybe
we might get dinged.
You know what? I'm willing to.
All right. Well, I think at worst it's just going to be, look, fair use. Mm-hmm. We're just responding. At worst, the video will be demonetized. Our channel is demonetized anyway. So
paid less because of the jobs they choose. They're also more likely to take time away from the labor force. But they continue to beat this drum, even though it's been illegal to pay women less than men since 1963. As a whole, the fourth wave of feminism.
But I think putting that law in effect was really just kind of like a gesture anyways, because you can't, like, if I like work at a business, and this has happened, and I know people in the chat have experiences. When you were starting off, you were a new person, just entering the workforce, teenager, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. You get a job somewhere, you come in, no experience, you're bottom of the barrel. And then you might have peers that are working the same position. Like when I started, I was a busboy, my first job. Busboy at a restaurant. Okay? I was making like, I think it was like $4 an hour, something, right? And then I would get 10% of the waitress's tips. And the waitresses were starting at about $2.50. So like if I made less than the dishwasher or one of the other busboys because they had experience, like that had nothing to do with discrimination. You can't make that illegal. Like people, when you work somewhere, you make an agreement with your boss on a pay rate and then they give it to you. And sometimes you're going to find out that maybe some other guy that works in your company in your same job is making more than you or less than you.
Okay.
It's not like, I'm just saying, like, people have the right to discriminate or decide what they're going to pay an employee, because this is a conversation that happens, right? Yes.
Ryan, we need to find where this woman actually compares feminism to red pill. We're 7 freaking minutes in. And let's just
all right.
Is mostly a Trojan horse of a vehicle to advance socialism. There is a very big government and often anti-capitalist agenda that courses throughout it. There is a real erosion of individualism within its ideology, and ultimately, many of its goals actually undermine civil rights. Socialism and communism
it's
are
about
bad for
getting
everyone.
things from a productive group to a non-productive group. That's all I want to say.
Tune into much of the work I've done in the past talking about this, especially the debate I did on the Jubilee Network against communists not long ago. But as I pointed out there, these theories hurt everyone, but they especially hurt women. And the mentalities that underlie them are completely toxic. It is not good to lead your life with a victim mentality. And that is what current feminists are pushing.
You, sorority girl, actress, influencer, victim. Yeah, that's totally me.
They want people to feel like victims. They want them to feel helpless. They want them to have a lot of social divides against other people and feel that they've been wronged, because then they can come in as the big solution with all of their big government ideas as your strongman that's going to save you and fix your life. These kinds of philosophies not only hurt people on a macro level because they are bad for the economy, they're bad for people who want to increase their quality of life. They hurt people on an interpersonal level because they keep you trapped in a mentality of not having any agency or the ability to shape the world around you. That's demoralizing, and over time, it makes people absolutely miserable. And this is one of the main reasons I have opposed fourth wave feminism so hard. It goes against my core beliefs of free market capitalism and individualism and limited government. It's part of why I started this show. I cannot stand the anti-woman stuff coming out of the right lately, but the left does not offer a good alternative for women either. I not only...
Well, yeah, it's also hugely anti-male. Like,
yeah, what's the anti-woman stuff coming out of the right, though?
I guess traditionalism. I don't know. Who knows? Like that, I think that's her big thing, is that she doesn't like feminine women or women who are more interested in nurturing or taking care of others.
She wants girl bosses.
Girl bosses.
Girl bosses all the way.
Okay.
I only think that the principles of a limited government and individualism and free markets are good for society, good for the economy. I think they're ethical, and I think they are the theories that lead to the greatest enjoyment of life for the most people. They lead to natural
I know that we have a problem with this. Just let it play. Let me talk.
All right.
We have a problem with this because we're doing a podcast.
They help foster diversity.
Something that she's probably
scripted. They forge community. These are bonds
that we see breaking
down
get to the
in
fucking
our
point.
society
You said
because we are consistently moving away from these
red
principles.
pillars.
And nowhere is that more evident
Where is it?
than when it comes to women's issues, especially when you start talking about dating and relationships and marriage. And what's really interesting, I think, about this, and why I think the red pill manosphere is just a mirror image of fourth wave feminism.
Oh, we're getting to it.
Because they are both selling an ideology that is trying to entrap people, that makes them feel like victims, that reduces their likelihood of being able to get into successful relationships, that makes them distrust and hate the opposite gender. And boy, is it working. Just look at society. We see fewer and fewer people forming lasting relationships. We see fewer people getting married. We see more kids being born into single-parent households. Relationships and marriage and families.
But okay, Hannah Cox, hold on. Let's look at this a little bit before I let you talk some more. So your claim is that feminism is making women hate men. Just like breaking it down to something very simple, because they have like exaggerated claims and they try to paint women as victims of men. And the manosphere, or the red pill, does the same thing to men. It makes them victims of women, and it makes them resentful towards women, and it makes them feel like victims of women with no agency. And your evidence for this is that marriage rates are dropping, divorces are really, going way up, and single parent households are on the rise. And this is the fault of both sides, even though the manosphere content is very recent. We've only been hearing about it probably in the last 10 years. And the divorce rates, the single parent household issue, and the general fear that women have for men, or the victimhood, is way older. It goes back probably at least 100 years or longer. But this is the fault of both sides. This is both sides, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And you don't think that the things like no fault divorce, another thing too, is that you want men and women to date and form families, but also women to be girl bosses and men to step up to the plate and try to match them in some way. And for those women in those marriages with men who are making the same or less than them to be happy with those men anyway, without ever asking women if this is something that they want.
Okay. Her whole corpus, how do you just say it? Like, her body of work includes, in the last time we responded to her, she was talking about inferior men. She was talking about contempt towards men who didn't rise to her standards.
Yes.
Right. So all of those scrubs, they should just crawl off and die, supposedly. And now she's saying, well, but people aren't marrying because of, well.
So you're not asking the right questions, though.
And if the red pill bros say, hey, maybe it's because women's standards are insane, you're going to say, well, you're just making yourselves out to be victims. So the whole narrative around victimhood of women is okay when it got all the things that you felt were necessary, which I would argue, but I'll just leave that. But once men are like, hey, this society we've constructed a society in which women don't find us attractive. This seems untenable. You're like, well, don't victimize yourself, bro. Like
she must. Do you like know Alex Syke? Is that the person you've been talking to?
Oh,
because this sounds like that language. Oh, it's your external locus of control, bro.
Yeah, and it's like, but then now we can't have the conversation, because what feminists are doing now is making so the average woman isn't attracted to the average man. But if a man like the red pill bros bring this up and say, hey, this is an issue, you're like, well, don't make men out to be victims. Well, how are we going to solve the problem if we can't, and this is the thing. Yes, it's a problem when you have a mindset in which women are always and forever simply expressions of men's actions. And it's not just victimhood, Hannah. It's not just an issue with victimhood. It is an issue across the board. When you embrace that notion for women, women's virtues are also an expression of men's actions. Because men, if a woman achieves something, it's really because men let her, right? They gave her the ability because they could take it away just as easily. That is the whole framework, is that women exist solely as expressions of men's actions and choices. Now, feminists want to only see that in terms of the negative, and many, I'm not saying all, the manosphere only want to see that in terms of the positive. That whole framework is screwed up, but we don't solve it by saying, oh, well, we can't recognize how women act on men. Like, how do you solve that? How do you solve the problems of the framework that we only recognize how men act on women by refusing to recognize how women act on men? How do you solve that, Hannah?
Good question.
Because that's what you're doing right now. And this is the problem with having an analysis when you haven't even begun to step out of the paradigm. Okay.
Shall we continue?
Yes.
Are good for people.
We're now getting through this.
There
and
is
it's
some
great.
work that needs to be done so that heterosexual couples have more equitable partnerships. But that doesn't mean that they should be avoided. And yet that
freaking video talking about how many percentage of men are inferior to you, Hannah? Like, what do you think that does? Like, you are basically destroying people's relationships yourself by throwing your ass around Oh, I got a good man. I got the best man. You don't get a man like mine. You're lesser. You're enabling a scrub. You know, like, what do you think that does? And honestly, now that you've expressed your insane expectations, you're disavowing any responsibility for how your insane expectations, your promotion of insane expectations among women, is causing a problem.
Also, did she just use the word equitable?
Oh, I get.
Should I go back a little bit?
Just a little bit. Like, I don't
want to hear
In
this.
relationships, we see fewer people getting married. We see more kids being born into single parent households. Relationships and marriage and families are good for people. Yes, there is some work that needs to be done so that heterosexual couples have more equitable partnerships. But that doesn't.
Don't buy into the rhetoric. Here's the big problem, okay? Now, I'm going to look at in the situation. I'm going to take the situation in the Middle East, and I'm going to look at it from a different angle. So I'm not going to weigh in on any kind of which politics is what. Israeli women are conservative, and they're willing to put themselves in line for their values. Like, they maybe not as much as Israeli men, but they are willing to put themselves in harm's way to promote their society, their community, their family, and their values. Muslim women, maybe not as much as Muslim men, are willing to put themselves in harm's way to promote their society, their family, and their values. They are willing to sacrifice their lives for what they believe in. The women of those cultures, which is unfortunate because, they're at odds. But our women in the West won't even go on a date. That is a problem, right? Because when women will not sacrifice anything for a society, for the society that they take from, that supports them supposedly, that society doesn't exist. So your entire video on how the average man is not attractive to you as a scrub is contributing to this problem. And this problem is that women in our society are not attracted to the average man who is primarily responsible for constructing this society. It's like Israeli women, Muslim women, willing to sacrifice their lives, not just willing to marry and have children and build families with men, willing to sacrifice their lives for the societies that they're a part of. Our society, women don't even want to go on a date. They don't even want to settle down. They don't want to have even the most peaceful companionship with men. They don't want that because the average man of our society isn't attractive, and that is a problem because it itself is a problem. And I'm going to get into this. I'm going to try to explain this. If the average woman in the West is not attracted to the average man, we don't have a future. And the average man in the West should be attractive simply because he has helped construct a society that is the safest and the most comfortable and the most prosperous in human history. That should have made him attractive to the average woman in the West. But we can't acknowledge any of that. We can't acknowledge any of the good stuff about men in the West. We have to continually drumbeat this idea that they're failing their women. You said equitable in relationships. That's just the drumbeat. Men are a bad investment for women. But we can't look at men. The average man who is a UPS driver, fixes the roads, fixes the sewers, a lineman, a garbage man, average men like that, the men you consider beneath you, that you shit on. Women do not find them attractive, even though they are the ones primarily responsible for everything we enjoy. And that is a problem long term. Full stop. And you are not helping by saying, well, I get to make this problem worse. And if men complain, well, it's their complaints that's the problem. Take responsibility for your own behavior. And this is the other thing. She's free to point fingers at other women. She doesn't want those fingers pointed at her. She wants to feel free to engage in the activities that are actually constructing this problem without taking responsibility for what she's doing, which is increasing this toxic load of contempt towards the average man in the West. And like I said, Israeli women, Muslim women, regardless of what you think of the conflict, both of them are willing to put their lives in line for their cultures. And Hannah Cox won't even date a plumber for hers.
All right, let's play some more.
Doesn't mean that they should be avoided, and yet that's what both of these ideologies are preaching. The manosphere often claims to have launched as a reaction to feminism. If you listen to these men, they'll tell you feminism has ruined everything.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with reacting. There is this. She's saying that the men's movement or the manosphere is a response to, it's a reaction.
Yeah, no,
I'm saying that's okay.
Often
that is
claims
fine.
to have.
Yeah, like if you think that's like saying, that's like saying, you know, like I don't know, like when
they claim they're a reaction to feminism, and she's basically going to say that's not acceptable because men can't be a reaction to women's actions. That's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Again, she's stuck in a framework. She's not going to make any headway stuck in this framework. Okay.
Yep.
Have launched as a reaction to feminism. If you listen to these men, they'll tell you feminism has ruined everything. It's completely destroyed society. It's created an unlevel playing field for them. All these women just hate men. It's ruined the women out there. No women are any good in Western cultures anymore. But if you listen to them talk, they actually just sound like most of these fourth wave feminists.
Okay,
they're bitter,
wait. Isn't that
angry,
what you just said?
They're lonely.
That women hate
I mean,
men?
didn't you just say that women, like fourth wave feminist women, do hate men, and there is like a culture of resentment towards men, and they're asking for ridiculously stupid shit and demanding them those things as rights, which she is too, but she's trying to point the finger and say, no, those people are really, really ridiculous, right?
Therefore, you shouldn't react to anything. Like, those people are really ridiculous, so you shouldn't react. Like, so they sound like fourth wave feminists. So this individual, like, that isn't hatred of women. That's telling women to stop certain behaviors, Hannah.
Yeah.
Like,
criticizing behaviors.
Like, that woman was like, I really hate it when men, and then said nothing. When men exist, when men are, basically. That men exist. That's her problem. The red pill bros, in response to that, are saying, hey, could you stop this specific behavior? And you're saying that's the same. It ain't the same. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's clearly a side, like there would, like I've said many times, if feminism hadn't done what it's done to society and women on the whole, there would be no manosphere. It wouldn't exist. So the fact that Hannah Cox says the manosphere is a reaction to feminism, yes, that's right, because feminism is ridiculous and somebody needs to like rein it in. Like, what is the problem here? I don't understand.
Yeah, she's basically saying, well, okay, let's set aside all the stuff about third wave feminism and all of this other stuff.
No,
she said fourth wave feminism is a problem, but men trying to rein it in or pointing out the behavior
is just as big of a problem.
Just as big as a problem. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, Hannah, you're saying let's just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and like what like honestly, it's interesting too, because there's like the way that she engaged in framing in the beginning. Okay, so she's like, here's the problem with feminism, and she was very specific to say, we're not going to talk about historical feminism or feminism in these other countries over here, because she says it's still necessary today somewhere else, right? We're only going to talk about feminism today in this time in history when I think it's a little ridiculous, and here are the reasons. And she brings up the wage gap and the Me Too movement successes, and like, that's it. Like, that's like, her criticisms are firstly very mild, nothing existential, nothing about like the absolute, like, framing of the relationship between men and women as predatory and dangerous to women at all. Just like wage gap, Me Too movement, that went a little too far. I don't like what they're, they want to make the government a bit bigger. I'm not a fan of that. Therefore, because libertarianism. But then when she goes to critique the manosphere, she doesn't get into anything specific. She just says, I don't like them because they're mean. They're mean to women online. And all of a sudden, the framing is unnecessary. There's no like, here is where they have a good point. Here are the really good things about this. There's none of this coming up. It's all like they make my fifis hurt and I don't like it. So this is just as bad. So like none of the historical stuff is accounted for. None of the older waves count for some reason. And the manosphere, despite, okay, so it's older than what I said, but it's not as old as feminism or even like proto-feminism, which is just like the general tendency to prefer women.
This is what I'm getting from you. This is not a centrist position.
No, of course not.
This is you're on one side of the horseshoe.
Yeah. Guess what? There is no horseshoe. You're not on it. If the horseshoe was the bell curve, you would be at the top for sure because you're a midwit.
Attempting to say that feminist, remember? Let's just use the example. The feminist who basically said that she resents.
Don't you hate it when men?
When men exist, is the same as a man saying, "Hey, could you stow the hatred towards us?" And until you do, I don't feel like being in a relationship with you. That is not the same.
No,
you are trying to make an equivalence there.
Men are not even claiming to be victims of a pay gap. They are not claiming to be victims of grape culture. They're not claiming that there needs to be more laws, that we should lower the standard of evidence to put women away. They're not saying that women shouldn't have a right to an abortion. They're not doing any of those things.
Some are doing it, but there are more women who are against abortion.
That's different. But that's not about abortion. Women. That's about abortion. I'm just saying it's a different causal factor, but go ahead.
Okay, but they're also not saying that we should pretend that when men force women to have sex, it's not rape. They're also not going into domestic violence and sexual assault and trying to cook the books to render female victims completely invisible. And if they were, feminists would say that's evidence of patriarchy, right?
There's no male version of the Duluth model.
Yeah,
there's no Mr. Magazine.
There are no quotas that only 15% of men can be arrested for domestic violence. Like these things are not equivalent. And even what you've shown isn't equivalent. There's no equivalent to, I resent the fact that that men exist. Okay. All right, let's continue. I don't want to look at the comments yet. Let's expand this
do a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay.
They aren't able to form bonds with the opposite gender. They lack agency. They feel like victims. They aren't actually offering an alternative to feminism at all. Instead, it's just merely an overcorrection being put into a conservative package and sold to men. And
how is it an overcorrection?
I don't think it's an overcorrection. I don't think it's conservative either. And plus, one other thing is, are you suggesting that the manosphere should offer an alternative to feminism? Because I feel like that's not going to go over very well with women, not feminists, with women and the simps that protect them. Guess what? Not going to work. What do you propose? What's the third way? Show me, gray Jedi of gender. Show me. How do you address this? I'm really curious because I love it when people say, well, if only we could evolve human beings in another direction, we could fix everything. Well, show me the way.
Even this is basically, I have these problems with fourth wave feminists. But if men have the problems, then they're just the same as fourth wave feminists. Like, Hannah, you're not trying to date women today, right? You're not having a direct experience of all of this crap. Yeah. So, you aren't really in position to, and I mean, maybe, I'm probably not either, but I actually listen to men. So, but like, this horseshoe, you're right. This horseshoe is just bullshit because she's on one side. She's firmly on one side and she's trying to equate a response to something as being just as bad as the thing it's responding to. Yeah. And again, I think that this is just her being in the framework of being unable to recognize how women act on men. to having some sort of existential crisis to the point where I don't even think she can recognize how women act on men. So when men are like, hey, women are acting on us in this way, she's like, well, that's exactly the same as women saying that men are acting on them. No, it isn't. Because again, the feminist framework is that women's actions and choices don't exist in patriarchy. Only men's do. And women are a reaction to men's actions. Now, feminists only want to acknowledge that in a negative way. But again, it's just women are reactions to men's actions. Women are expressions of men's actions. So it's not the same when men are like, hey, women affect us in this way. Women have an effect on us. That is not two sides of a horseshoe. It's not two sides of a horseshoe. Okay, I can't think of a geometric shape off the top of my head that is, but one side saying that women don't exist except as expressions of men's actions and only in the negative, and the other side saying, no, wait, actually, men also have, are acted upon by women. That's not two sides of a horseshoe. That's one side saying something that should be common sense, because men are people, and people can be affected by external circumstances and forces, and men can be affected by women. All right. Recognizing that is just common sense. It's not the same as defining yourself only as an expression of men's actions. Did you see what I'm saying? Like it's not the same.
No, I know. I said I knew this in the beginning. This was what it was going to be.
Oh,
because this is like every centrist position is just a feminist position. Like I don't even need to go into like the detail. It's the same. So
okay.
Concerned about this, not just because as a woman, I don't like anti-women sentiments taking hold anywhere, but I'm also concerned about it because traditionally...
Wait. How is, like, all you've said is, okay, Hannah Cox says, I don't like fourth wave feminism for A, B, and C. Men say, I don't like fourth wave for feminism for A, B, and C. Hannah Cox, oh, wait, slow down there. We don't want to make any anti-women sentiments.
You're being mean online. Did you just tell me to? Is that cat turd in the chat? Did you just tell me to make a sandwich? Oh my God, I'm being oppressed.
Hannah's like, I'm identifying these women as a problem, but if men are like, yeah, these women's behavior is a problem, Hannah's like, no, whoa. That's only I get to do that. Like, did you just see you did that, Hannah? You're like,
no,
fourth wave feminism is a problem. And then men are like, fourth wave feminism is a problem. And Hannah's like, men are the problem. Like,
no, she wants, here's what I think, okay?
Okay.
She wants men to be able to critique feminism, but she doesn't like the way they do it. She's engaging in tone policing. I know, but I think she's going to say, she's going to engage in tone policing of men.
You may be thinking that, Brian. But that's not what she's done now. What she has done now is she has critiqued fourth wave feminism and then described men critiquing fourth wave feminism, almost the same things that she's critiquing, specifically the hatred, right? And she says that's bad.
Right. So but what I'm saying is she thinks she doesn't no.
It's not even like a horseshoe because she is, I don't know, hovering outside the two ends of the horseshoe, and she sees one end saying, hey, men are bad, and she sees the other end saying, hey, women, stop saying that. And she says, oh no, actually she looks at the one end and says, hey, that's really extreme. Men can't get behind fourth wave feminism. And then she sees the other side saying exactly what she just said and then says it's extreme. What the fuck kind of pretzel logic is this?
Yeah.
You see what it's like?
Yeah. I know. Let's play.
Right has been the best vehicle to advance capitalism, to advance limited government and pro-individual ideas. But as these men continue to take over,
I feel like I'm becoming more communist the more I talk to her. I listen to her.
She's like, look, libertarianism has been taken over by communists, so you can just join the Libertarian Party if you want. Yeah, I mean, like, all she knows she didn't like. Did you even read like one Ayn Rand book? It seems like all you know is free market, limited government, individualism. Isn't that the whole thing? Like,
Well,
are
she
you even gonna bring up the NAP at least? No, just capitalism,
Well,
limited government, individualism. That's it. That's the whole thing.
I think that she's looking at this from the lens of what she desires. So she desires something
Yeah.
from men, and that's these things like money, basically, materialism. And she doesn't want men to not do that. Like literally, this is the most basic um amygdala version of libertarianism, which is basically
Yeah.
communist men give me the ick.
Well, it's just like when we had, Karen has said that the Libertarian Party better be careful when they let women in because they're going to start changing it. And I think that this is a very good example. I mean, I can
It's not
imagine
about
her.
principles.
No, it's not. It's
men who
about
give her the ick.
yes, it's about the
turning off women in droves. And newsflash, women are 50% of this country. You cannot really have a successful political movement that completely exempts them. And it will completely exempt them if this rhetoric keeps up. Because while the
But you
left might
can
be
that
selling absolute...
okay, you can have a political movement that completely exempts men, but not one that completely exempts women, that does not consider their interests at all. Even the interests that align with yours, Hannah. Like literally you're saying, well, fourth wave feminism is bad, but if men say it, then that's even worse.
Yeah.
Pretzel logic. Like this is not a horseshoe. It's not a horseshoe. It's a pretzel and it's in your brain. Okay.
Well, she is sort of demonstrating, and she probably doesn't realize this, but she is demonstrating the current problem with our discourse right now with women who are angry and vindictive about Roe v. Wade, so much so that regardless of what party they belong to, they're willing to vote to destroy the entire country just because they're angry about Roe v. Wade. Even though they have no plans on getting an abortion, even though the only thing that happened was that the law that was bad law in the first place just made it to where it goes back to the states and it's completely rational and it's got nothing to do with taking away anyone's rights, but they're angry because they don't like how it made them feel and they're like, we will vote to destroy the country, we'll open up the borders, we'll let everybody in, we'll let everything go to shit, we'll let you print money until we're all gone just because we're angry with you. This is what women have done on purpose. And Hannah's saying, oh man, you're not making the women feel really welcome on the right. The men are not trying to vote women into fucking extinction, but the women are willing to do it to everyone. It's like that. It's like this crazy, I think it's one of these stand-up comedians used to tell this joke about, like if you get into a fight with a woman, don't do it while you're driving because she'll just take hold of the wheel and kill you both. Like this is what they're doing. And Hannah Cox is at no point does she think, maybe like women acting out in this way, like using their political power to destroy just because they're mad because of something that Cat Turd said on fucking Twitter. I mean, like, maybe you shouldn't have the vote. Maybe your response to repeal the 19th is proof that we should repeal the 19th. Like, yeah, I'm not saying we should do that, but you're not making the case, Well,
and here's the other thing. Like, if we had an awareness of the situation for men, I would imagine the level of anger in women would be significantly less because they would realize that this isn't an injustice that they're facing because they're women and men want to create the handmaiden's tale. It's simply a philosophical issue that our society is grappling with. And it's not like the situation for men is better because it's significantly worse. Men are 100% obligated to children, regardless of how they're conceived, even through the rape of men. And that is not an insignificant issue. As the CDC, the Center of Disease Control, has proven like 4 years in a row, before it changed its methodology and everybody stopped responding to its surveys, 4 years in a row, it found parity between men and women in terms of forced sex in the last year. So this is not a small issue. Men being forced and then subsequently made responsible for rape babies is not a small issue. And I actually, like, a woman who came to the ICMI, the International Conference for Men's Issues, in I think 2017, or was it 2016 in England. She actually was one of those children. Her father was raped by her mother, and the destruction of her family was incredible, and the destruction of her. And she ended up committing suicide in 2018. So this has a real face. This has a real human cost to it. The fact that we do not respect men's sexual autonomy. And if women understood that, if they understood it, maybe they would be less angry about the fact that they think their autonomy is being taken away. They would be able to conceptualize it more in terms of a philosophical issue, an issue of governance, an issue of when life begins and how parents are meant to be made responsible for that life. They would see it in terms of those issues if they had that perspective, and they don't. And why don't they? Because feminists have locked down this entire argument. They don't allow that perspective to happen. So we are going to destroy our entire society. Like, feminists are going to, or women voting in these capricious, vengeful ways are going to cause us to implode. Because, and again, like the conservative Israeli women, conservative Muslim women, they'll even sacrifice their lives for their own cultures and their own philosophies. Women in our culture won't even listen to men. They won't even understand. They won't even expand their awareness to include men. They'll listen to Hannah Cox, and we're going to ride this, like, this whole situation is a problem, is made worse and worse and worse because we cannot see how external factors affect men. And women in that context become angry because they don't have the full context of what's going on. So it's not even just women voting. It's women being groomed in this system to completely misunderstand what's going on voting. Okay.
How much more are we going to do?
Because I'm thinking, you know, like if we went back like 250 years and we're like, yeah, only the babushkas can vote. You know, the women who run a freaking farm and can feed like 50 people at any given moment. Only they can vote. I would imagine this would not be a problem. Like, you're 70 years old and you've run a farm for 55 years. You probably understand a lot of things that Hannah Cox will never understand. Okay. All right.
All right.
Yeah, let's try to get to 15 minutes.
All right. Let's go.
Ruinous ideas economically, at least they sound nice. At least they sound like they like women. And so that's going to continue to attract women more and more. And ultimately, we will lose capitalism in this country.
Yeah, but it's not because they're saying things that are nice, because they're offering them free shit. Like Hannah Cox, you have to understand, when women are generally separated from the product of like the labor that goes behind the things that they get, because they would have to see that it is brought to them by men. So because they're separated from it, like they go to Whole Foods and there's just food there. They don't know how it gets there. It's in the back. That's what it's in the back, guys. And so like when the left says, we think that food should be free. We think housing should be free. We think abortion should be free. We think childcare should be free. We think education should be free. We think college should be free. We think people should get a universal basic income. Women are like, bing, bing, bing. Why didn't I think of that? I think that's great. I don't know how any of this works. I just like what you're telling me. That's like, Hannah Cox can't understand that the reason why the left is appealing to women is because it is appealing to their desire for security and free shit, because they don't know where it comes from, because it comes from men. And because they can't see that men bring value to their life, because they've already... situation
for men. They can't see...
Right. They can't see the situation for men. Like, so they don't think... Yes. It's just magic. Oh, look, there's a taxi cab. I call for an Uber. Here's one. Like, if men all died tomorrow, women would just die right after, because it'd be like, what happened to my phone? Why isn't my phone working? What's going on with my internet? Why I went to the CVS and it was closed. I can't buy my new makeup. What's going on? How did this happen? Why are there no food on the shelves? Did you check in the back?
Yes, and it's like the issue. Yeah, fundamentally the issue is female solipsism. And I'm not saying that is a eternal case, because like I said,
Yes,
going
it
back
is.
to my babushka argument, like when you have to hoe the damn potatoes, when you have to harvest the damn potatoes, you understand what it's, why you don't want half of your harvest going to someone else. When you understand your labor creating your situation. So your labor is why you eat. Your labor is why you have lighting. Your labor is why you have water. Your labor is why you have any kind of medicine. Your labor is why the things around you exist. Then you understand what it means to have the products of your labor taken away. And this is what I say one of his female slopses. It isn't necessarily innate to women, but we have this conjecture about reality in which women do not have to integrate the situation for men in their understanding of economics, their understanding of their world in any circumstance. So, for example, the reproductive rights argument, suddenly it becomes men against women, men against women, when it isn't.
Nope.
It isn't, because men don't have reproductive rights.
Yeah, they're not a part of the conversation.
They're
it's
not
women
part of the
against women.
It's
And
just
like, of course,
given.
they'll point at the men in positions of political power and say that's why. But those men are there on behalf of women in service to women.
And so
That's
they think things come from the government when they actually come from men, and they're just
Yes.
redistributed by the government.
Yes.
Women's reproductive rights come from male taxpayers who are made to subsidize single mothers, right?
Yep.
Like that, otherwise you wouldn't be able to do it, right? That is where it comes from. So when you remove men from the equation, women have a completely distorted view of reality. And that is the problem. Under every single problem that you bring up, Hannah, that is where it's coming from. And flattering women more is not going to change that. And yes, I know that the Uniparty, this is the party of single women. It's just going to be more like we're there. We're going there. That's it. That's where we're going. But my hope is that once you drive the system into the ground, there will be enough left to pick up the pieces with an understanding that women can't be allowed to have power without without being aware of what men do in society.
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with your eyebrow?
Mine?
No, hers. Like, did she like?
Hey, man, my eyebrows.
Did she get no? But underneath her, like her brow, like underneath one of her eyebrows.
Oh yeah, it looks like
she looks like she's been playing goalie for a hockey league.
No, I think it's just, I don't know, maybe it's the lighting. Okay.
No, maybe it's
we
the
don't
lighting.
kick these guys out of these spaces.
No,
people have got to learn to police their movements, police their spaces. Who you associate with matters.
She's got an egg under her. Look at that. She's got an egg.
Now we're not gonna respond to what she's saying. She is suggesting, by the way, she just suggested that men in these problematic men should be kicked out of their spaces. Again, is this a new thing? Nope. Men get together. Some of them say some stuff a woman doesn't like. She doesn't like their tone policing. You guys, you got to do something about these guys because I don't like how they're saying things.
Yeah, but that's the point. Like, you can't. The problem is that women have no conception of the situation for men. They don't.
No.
They have. It's like men are a black box, so they keep making these decisions with only like I don't even 10% of the information about the world, and it leads to resentments. It leads to thinking that the primary necessity is to make men do more shit, right? So it's like that is the problem here. And again, you don't solve the problem by making it worse. Like, you literally, Hannah, you don't put out a fire by lighting more fires. But you can't indulge this anymore. At some point, we're going to realize as a society, we cannot indulge this. We can't hide the situation of men from women in perpetuity and expect anything good to come of it. I know. I'm just, now I can't unsee it. It's like,
let's
kids
get
a
to
lot of the times. Like, who your friends are matters. It impacts you. People project who you are based on who you are around. The red pill tells men that they are victims. It tells them that their problems are not their own fault, but rather can be blamed on other people, often people who they don't even know. It scares them. It intentionally works to scare men away from relationships and marriages. It works to make men.
I think that no, wait. The red
Wait,
pill
what does your girl boss narrative do? Does that not also intimidate and frighten men? What about the wit? Let's not even talk about.
Well, it intimidated and frightened women. Like her narrative that, oh yeah, I got a high powered alpha bro. You know, I'm living the high life. You know, we're you know, like all that narrative. Does that not scare women away from settling? Like,
Yeah, why should you settle? You should go for a high value alpha dude. Yeah, you might have to share him with like 10 or 15 other women.
It's not
but you
us.
could beat them.
It's not us that's scaring men. It's the family courts. This is the
Yeah, it's
family
like
divorce courts.
it's reality.
Fucking crazy. But
It's women.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like she cannot see the effects. Like the fact that men can be acted on. Like, and she's like, oh, that's the same as saying that women can be acted on. No, because it's saying that men can be acted on is just common sense. Saying that women only exist to be acted on is what we're the problem. Okay.
All right, back to
of the other gender in
Good
many
Lord.
ways. And ultimately, like fourth wave feminism, it convinces these men that they need big government solutions in order to solve
it
all of
doesn't.
these
What?
very big problems being created by women. Now, interestingly, when I was
what's I want to know, is she going to give an example? Because the only thing, okay, first of all, I think this is ridiculous. But the only thing there was one thing I heard that sounded like a big government solution coming from the incel community, but that's it. Like, I think by and large, men in the manosphere know that the government is the problem. Like, full stop. So, but let's see. Maybe she knows something we don't know.
comparing these two movements, I found not only these similarities, but I also found that just like fourth wave feminists, the manosphere and red pill communities get a lot of stats wrong. Feminists will tell you there's a gender pay gap when there's not. They'll tell you we need to believe all women without due process and that women never lie about these things. But in the red pill community, they have similar pieces of fiction. They try to make it sound as if false accusations of sexual abuse are rampant when they're not. They try to tell men
there's evidence that they are, but let's keep going.
All right.
that they shouldn't get married because divorce courts are totally stacked against them, when, as I pointed out in another episode, nothing could be further from the truth. Men
You're
much
wrong.
better in divorce
You're
than women.
absolutely 100% wrong, Hannah. And I know exactly what you're basing this on. You're talking about a self-selecting group of men who choose to go to get sole custody, and they're usually up against very unfit women. Okay? No, you are 100% wrong. This is dishonest.
Yeah, well, she's got a narrative to protect because she's a centrist. Remember, when radical feminists defend their position, like the Manifestel types, we know where they're coming from. But the real danger comes from the fence sitters or supposed fence sitters that tell you, no, I'm not crazy like that person over there. I'm enlightened and centrist. Watch this. And then they bring essentially the same arguments and say, well, look, obviously, because I'm the centrist with the 9 bazillion IQ, you have to agree with me. And yes, I basically am saying the same thing that the radical is saying, but I'm saying it in a different way. So when you say, oh yeah, these are all like red pill bro myths that I'm debunking right now, debunked, when they're not, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, this changes. I mean, it just exposes what I said. Like, Hannah Cox is not what she claims to be.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if she worked for the fucking government. Does she get money from the Biden administration? Because I know a lot of online feminist debaters that get money from, like, Planned Parenthood and shit. So
the time they have this whole like 80-20 myth I completely debunked last episode, where they've got people convinced that 80% of women are only going for the top 20% of men, so none of them have any shot of being able to find a girl.
No, that's just you. Like, literally, what did you say about men who are inferior?
Yeah, didn't you just say, like, in another video that responded to you, that most men are not measuring up? Like,
Oh, good lord. No, you
Well,
see,
friend
but
or
you see,
partner.
only Hannah is going after the top 20. All the lesser women are actually
settling because they're
Settling.
inferior to her.
because they're inferior. Yeah.
Yeah.
Point being, both groups have some very serious issues reading and interpreting data, and as a whole, seem to just make stuff up that's convenient for their narratives. Two critiques I have for both of these movements that I think are really important to remember is, first and foremost, people are not a monolith. All men, all women, all people of a certain race, all people of a certain religion, anybody using that kind of argument is a problem. People are individuals. They should be treated as individuals. They should be judged on their actions as individuals. Only demagogues and racists and bigots will have you believe that a whole
This is a really
population
low
group is a
bar.
monolith.
Oh my god.
This is like the lowest bar.
I feel like I'm losing IQ points watching this. Oh my god. Hey guys, it's bad to generalize.
Ugh.
I mean, the laws don't matter. Don't generalize. Don't generalize. She'll generalize the government, though, right?
A bully and a victim are the same. You're just you're horseshoe
exactly.
period.
Exactly. Guys, stop fighting back. I'm gonna suspend you both.
If we recognize that men are acted on by women, it's exactly the same as defining women only in terms of being acted upon by men. Like,
Generalizing is bad, okay?
And the second important critique I have that I think is really important for humans to flourish is for people to understand that they can always have agency. You cannot control your circumstances, but you can improve them. You can decide your mentality around them. Especially,
is this like what's the average age of her audience? Are they like 10? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, okay, so she's making this false equivalence. She's saying that, and you know what? I would say that the red pill community, as a distinct from people who advocate for men's issues, like there's a distinction there. They would say that we're contemptible in many cases.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, honestly, they don't want us in their community.
Yeah, I know. They would say, "Oh, it's just a shit test. Why are you being a pussy? Look at all the ass I get. Buy my book."
The other thing is that this is sort of sneaky because a lot of men in the red pill community would say that we, men's issues advocates, are victimizing men, right? Because we're making men think that they're victims. Not the situation where they go to court and they lose money, they lose their children, they become victimized by female aggressors and they have no services. Not those situations. It's us pointing out that those situations are bad that makes them think of themselves as victims. And I guess that's right, because we're saying that you are not responsible for these other people's behavior and that behavior is wrong. Therefore, you are indeed a victim of that behavior, right? So we're not allowed to do that because men should be taking responsibility in all circumstances, and which falls out to endure everything from everybody without complaint and always try to make everything better for them, which is pathological. Okay? So there's a big difference between defining women as solely expressions of men's actions and recognizing the common sense situation that women are also have effects on men and that they should take responsibility for those effects.
Yeah.
And not just when they're women who are challenging your particular decision about how you want to structure your life and how you get resources out of men, Hannah, but when they are violating the principles necessary for keeping our society in operation, shall we say, right? Now, the fact that she's putting both of these, like, I don't even think she's talking about, again, I don't think she's talking about red pill bros, because they would say that I think she's talking about us. And
yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah, she's lumping us in.
What she's trying to do, what she's trying to do is she's trying to shame red pill bros by lumping them in with men's issues advocates, who incidentally, I hate to say it, but they are some of the most active people men I've ever seen in dealing with these issues. Like yes, they recognize that these issues are a problem, but they're doing something about it. I mean, look at Justin Trottier. Like, he's single-handedly building men's services in Canada. And he's doing it without government assistance, Hannah. He's doing it entirely through networking with private donors and people who are concerned about how the things that men face. These are men standing up and fixing their own problems, recognizing and fixing their own problems. Whereas I think that the tendency in the red pill community is more to, no, these problems don't exist, and if you identify them, then you are a self-victimizing cuck. No, not always, but I think that there is a slight tendency in there. And MGTOW, they're fixing their own problems. They're fixing their own problems in the way that they want. And pickup artists, they want to have women, and they are trying to develop the skills to get what they want.
Yeah, I mean, you literally don't have an argument against any of that.
No,
you don't.
Recognizing problems men face is the first step to fixing them. Okay? The problem that you have is that you exist within a framework that you refuse to examine. And that framework is that you predominantly see yourself as being acted upon as a woman, as an expression of men's actions. But you know what? Father Time is the man that acts upon you most, Hannah Cox. So maybe in like 20 years, you'll clue into all of this. All right.
Should we keep going? It looks like she's doing a topic shift. So
yeah, I sense that topic shift is about to occur. So let's call it. I feel good. I feel like this is.
Yeah, I mean, this turned out exactly like I expected. So
yes,
I was hoping for a plot twist, but
no
I knew that I didn't invest too much of my soul into.
No, there's no point
into that
plot twist
because I knew.
No,
yeah,
the plot twist would be Hannah saying, "Hey, you know."
Yeah, we should probably address these things. I think I was wrong. I am not going to call myself a feminist anymore because I don't think that it means women.
Yeah, no, she's caping for feminism. She has made an equivalence that doesn't exist.
Just like a woman.
I'm sorry as fuck. I love that.
Yeah, Skeletor is the best.
Yes, it is. Okay, so I just want to say, once again, we are doing our monthly fundraiser, feedthebadger.com/support. And if you enjoy this content, send us a message at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And we will respond to it in whatever show is most reasonable to do so. So once again, feedthebadger.com/support to make sure we're able to continue to do this content, and feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a message.
You don't have any thank yous, do you?
Let me double check. Last time I checked, we don't. So I'm just, I'm sorry, Brian. That eye is really bugging me. I'm like, what the hell happened to you? It looks like you took
I think she was like covering up something, like maybe she had a blister or a mosquito bit her there, and she's like trying to cover
It's a bit big for a mosquito. It looks like she took an arrow to
or
the knee.
or there's like a little, like, you know, a cluster of spider eggs that are going to be bursting out any moment.
Oh my god. It's just distracting.
Little like, clear spiders, like little larvae.
Like a shiner. Like
yeah.
maybe she's part of an underground fight ring. Like we could have like some we could start developing some deep lore about her.
She could do that and then like make a channel where it just shows her fights and call it Hannah Box, like boxing. But
that's good.
Oh, Nova Fan sent a Rumble rant. Let me get that really quick.
Okay.
Sorry, Nova Fan, I didn't realize. Let me just make sure I didn't miss any. Nova Fan 21 gives $1 and says, does she think all of second wave feminism was united, or did the Lavender Menace never exist? Well, she's just, look, dude, this is just midwittery at its finest. I don't think there's a lot. She's just repeating like super basic talking points. There's not, yeah, I don't think those books actually have anything in them. Maybe like there's hiding candy bars and various, like a chisel and a hammer for breaking out of prison. That's it. Like, I don't think that I think you're giving her a lot of credit is all I'm saying.
I honestly, I think that my takeaway is that only babushkas should be voting. Women anyway. If you only if you've had like 15 children and run a farm should you have a vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, so no thank yous.
Okay, I can double check again, but it doesn't look like it.
All right, no, it's okay. I just want to know before.
It's pretty early in the month.
Yeah, fair enough. We just started, so.
Yeah.
All right.
So hopefully, anyway, so this was sponsored by Richard Bier. Thank you, Richard. And again, if you want to sponsor a show topic or subtopic, go to send your talk to me at feedthebadger@feedthebadger.com. All right, Brian.
All right.
Do the things.
So if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we talked about on the video. You can find a link to the full-length video in the description so you can watch it yourself. Hey, maybe there is a M. Night Shyamalan plot twist at the very end where she suddenly like pulls the mask off and it's like Rollo Tomasi, or she basically says, oh, I've actually, all of this was a lie, and actually I'm totally like, you know, giving a fuck about men. I don't know. Maybe we're wrong. So watch the whole thing, but and also while you're at it, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame. And
Okay, I got it. All right. So she's basically equating the accelerator in a car with the brake. So the gas pedal with the brake. And basically the feminists, fourth wave feminists, well, I would say all wave feminists are hitting that accelerator. And then these supposedly red pill bros are hitting the brake and saying, hey, we need to, and she's saying, why are you, that's a response, bruh. Like,
I don't like the way you're hitting the brakes.
Yeah. Why are you, like, you're responding to them putting the gas on, putting the accelerator down, putting the hammer down. That's a response, bro. That's exactly the same as hitting the accelerator because you're pushing on a lever. I'm just saying. So that's that. Did you just grab a fly?
No, that was an emoji that was floating past my face, and I tried to catch it. I think I did. It disappeared right after. So hopefully it does. Hopefully it doesn't come out the other end.
Like hitting the gas with hitting the brake. Like, how are you supposed to hit the brake if you don't acknowledge that women are engaging in something stupid since they're the primary driver of feminism? Like, how do you, if you say fourth wave feminism is doing something wrong, and then men are like, fourth wave feminism is doing something wrong, we need to hit the brake. And then you say, well, don't do that. That's exactly the same. Like, no, it isn't. Okay. A reaction to the problem isn't also the problem. Okay.
Yes, exactly. All right.
So to stop the problem isn't also the problem. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. Well, anyway, yeah. So please. I've already said all the other things. So just share the video if you can. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame. And we'll talk to you all in the next one.
Are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.